Sundu.
Yeah.
Last week there was a story that we read in the paper that was quite distressing.
Yes,
to
it
you.
was. It was.
Right? What was it?
So a young boy, City shared the story during the review. A young boy was circumcised. Of course, went through the normal cultural ritual of circumcision. And it seemed as though it was a hazing process as well. So they were in a place of seclusion, as normally is the case. And two boys, I believe it was a couple of boys, or three of them, then decided to take him through a further process, whereby they essentially bullied and abused him and made him do some horrific things like, consume his own vomit and a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
And then that saw him hospitalized thereafter, where he was essentially fighting for his life. And this was as a result of them wanting to say essentially that they wanted to see if he would be man enough even after the ritual of circumcision took place. That was a story that was reported.
Yeah.
I shudder to think at the hundreds of others that go through things like this that are unreported.
Yeah.
And it's a thing.
Basically, circumcision happens during the school holidays, usually in August and this December holiday across the country. And circumcision is still treated as a rite of passage. There are medical reasons for circumcision, and that's what the Mokoroine MP is pushing when he says, let's make it mandatory for medical reasons. But then there is also the traditional reason. This is where you move from boy to man. A man who is a Boychild mentor and a director at Merishaw School, Julius Wanyaga, is our guest for the next hour. Julius, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you very much.
Karibu sana.
Yeah.
To welcome you, City has the day's proverb. Every week, City goes to one African country and brings us proverbs from that country. This week, it's at the headquarters of the IGAD. This is the city of Djibouti, in the country of Djibouti. Sawa.
This is a country where they simplify things. Can you imagine if the capital of Kenya was Kenya?
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
Simbo. Yes.
No problem. Well, we have Nairobi. We'll have to do with it.
Okay.
It is no shame at all to work for pay. That's today's proverb.
It is no shame at all to work for pay.
These two cast aspersions on this particular proverb and said that this was not a proverb.
I don't know what you're talking about.
See,
I like it.
they said, I was making this thing up. A serious country like Djibouti can't have such a proverb.
A serious country,
And it is no shame at all to work for money. Is that not obvious?
Right?
Yes.
Surely.
Anyway.
Julius, first of all, A, question number one, A, do you think this is a proverb? And B, if it is a proverb, what's your interpretation of it?
This is very interesting because on Friday, I was mentoring some kids at our church, ACK in Thika. And I was telling them the exact opposite, that we work for work. We don't work for money.
And now here you...
So we work for more work. So you don't, because you are not supposed to really work for money. You're supposed to work for more work. And when you get a lot of work, then somehow money will just come.
Money will follow work.
That's what my mentor told me about 20 years ago.
So if we wrote that thing of yours into a series, as an equation, it ends up in the same.
With the money, yes.
You're working for work, for money.
For money, yeah.
So you'll work for money.
So, so I think...
Y equals B.
Yeah.
Then X equals Y.
Actually, it's true.
You're actually quite right because
it is actually
work
for money.
Work has a value.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how we measure value, often, not always, is with money.
Cash,
Yes, sometimes it's with social capital, because when you have a good name, it enables you to get more work.
More work.
Yes.
Now, as you get more work,
You get more money.
you then get a title called an expert. When you're an expert, when
People look for you.
Yeah, when they look for you,
Pay you a lot.
So the moral of the story is
Yes.
Work
It's work for
money.
For money.
All right, folks.
There's no shame at
I've
all.
understood what you've said. The proverb, however, does not say all those things you're saying. It says it is no shame at all to work for money. For pay, actually. Money is
for
you.
pay.
pay.
too.
So it can even be a goat. Hey.
You never know. We even got wives.
Or on a Sunday.
Now, biblically, there's a guy who got a wife. He had worked for 7 years. He was given a wife. He
He was given the wrong wife.
was conned. He worked another 7 years.
Got the real wife. So another
He worked for work. And then what got him? The second work got him with the wife.
He who works will get a wife. Okay, sorry.
Julius.
Yes.
As we've introduced you, you're a mentor of young people.
Young boys.
Why?
Mainly. Yeah. So when I call myself a mentor, it's actually, I'm part of a team of mentors at our school. So I come from a school called Merishaw School. So we are the home of the Boychild. So we focus on boys, mainly to mentor them. You said something, I think, in the news. I think it's you who has said that the circumcision ceremony that we have been witnessing is to transition boys to men. But, you know, in our school, we say that the raw material for men is the boys. Unfortunately, if you brought up the boys in the wrong way, even as a transition, then you are transitioning to something even worse.
Right.
And I think that's why the news came, where they are transitioning, but they are bullying another one. They are probably beating him because there's somewhere they lost, you know, the whole meaning about how to be a responsible man in society. So that's why we are focusing on boys. But I think there's a bigger national agenda where we think the boy child has really drifted from what we would have all wished to see. If you look at some basic statistics, for example, in schools, you'll notice that if you look at most schools now, every time the exam is released, check the top 10, for example, and go back like 15 years ago or 20 years ago, check the top 10, you'll find more boys earlier. Now you find more girls now. To the extent where we went to Nakuru and one teacher was saying, I'm in a crisis because I have not had a boy topping my school for the last 5 years. Right? Somebody came to a forum we were in Nakuru. If you look at workplace, for example, you even find where employers are now preferring to employ girls because the boy child is coming with a lot of baggage. There was a news item in Muranga where they were saying employers are employing girls because boys are coming to work drunk. What? It was a big news item, I think, last year. If you look at homes now, there is increased violence, especially in where I come from, Central Kenya. There's a lot of violence at homes because when the boy child is not progressing, then the home doesn't progress. You know, it definitely will not progress because the theory is that the boy is always the ceiling for the girl. You know, when the boy is not moving, no matter how much effort the girl makes, as long as there will be a family between man and wife, the boy becomes the...
So basically the man is dragging the woman down.
Exactly.
Even as much as the woman is
working
very
hard, you know, putting all the right things, but the boy becomes the roadblock at some point. Danger ahead, as we call it. Yes. So that's the reason why we are focusing a lot on boys, because it's through that you can help the families to progress and the country to progress as well. And hopefully we see less of these challenges that we are talking about.
Can I take you further back?
Yeah, please.
If we are mentoring boys so that they mature to be responsible men, responsible citizens, what then do you think is the problem? Why do we need to put in this extra effort beyond just coming from homes where this ought to happen? What do we see happening in the homes? And what roles are the fathers and the older men in society playing when it comes to the bringing up of these boys?
Because this, I think you see, this is a hot seat, right? So we can speak the truth, right?
Yes, we can. It's usually advisable.
Yeah. So one of the truth is that in recent times, I guess because of various things, including development, economic challenges and all that, so there has been challenges in families. So you now find more families breaking than probably before. You find more divorces now than probably before. And what happens, one of the small things that we always forget is that when families break, the one who suffers most is the boy child.
Suffers most?
Yes. Anytime there's a challenge in a family, the one who suffers the most is the boy, not the girl.
Why?
Because one is that the children always tend to end with the mother. Always. 99% of the time, when there's an issue with families,
Custody
the
goes to the
children
mother.
goes to the mother.
That's true.
Actually, the mother is the one who takes care of the children when there are issues at home. But remember, this boy has been growing knowing he's a man, so he's supposed to be the leader of this home. And when the family is breaking, he actually doesn't know what to do. He's confused, And oftentimes boys feel like they're the ones who are supposed to protect their mothers. So when there is violence, for example, the boy is the most depressed because he doesn't have enough,
He's feeling that
strength.
he's not.
He feels like, if I wish I can lift this man and I just throw him through the window, but he can't do it, right? So he feels that he's supposed to be the leader because he's supposed to be the natural heir to leadership in that home, but the home is breaking. The other problem is that as the homes are having challenges, then you find more women are getting involved in boys' affairs. And basic things to look at, for example, if you are called for, if a school calls for meetings, you can go and count how many men come for those meetings. There will be very few. Majority of them are going to be women. If you go to church, where the boys are supposed to be molded into, spiritual health of the boys, you find again in churches you have more women than men. So essentially, we say the girl is at home because the girl is always with the mother, but the boy is not at home because the gentleman, you and I, who are supposed to be with the boy, are either very busy out there. We like saying we are very busy, but also sometimes I think we are just absent and we are not there for these boys. So this boy is somewhere between a man and a woman because he's spending more time with a woman than the man. So he's somewhere confused between a man and a woman, and he grows with that challenge that he doesn't. We were in Eldoret the other day, and somebody said, men don't know anything else other than pressure. And he was joking, was saying, even at a kuoga, you have to pressure them, But that's if a boy has grown up. If a boy is growing up with men, he grows with that, that strength that this is how men behave, this is how men are. But if a boy has not grown with men, and then you're putting pressure on him when he's about to marry, now he's being told
know how to handle it.
He doesn't know how to handle it.
But then, Julius,
everything
that you're saying, true as it may sound,
yes,
there are people who counter that and say, you know what, this is what is actually leading. This kind of thinking and talking is what's leading to the many problems that we're facing. This is what we're calling toxicity. That you're telling a man, oh, you've got to be this. Oh, man, don't cry. Oh, man, be tough. Oh, man, be protector. Oh, man, be provider. This is toxicity. This is what's leading to problems.
Now, that's a good argument. That is toxicity. But I don't think there is, maybe we can create another proverb. There is no shame in you being a man. Because I'm not sure that, men have emotions. We have our own, feelings and everything. But we still have to be men. And that's why then mentorship comes.
Can you explain to me this thing about having to be a man?
Yes.
Could you describe what that means? When you say we still have to be men, and I'm not talking about physiology here because that's clear. When you say you still have to be a man, what is that?
You still have to be a man. You still have to be the leader of the home, of the family, because everything starts with family. Right? Let's first agree that everything starts at home, and I think that's what our friend here was talking about. What is happening at home? Because the problem you are seeing is emanating from home. So you still have to be a man. You still have to be the father of the home. You still have to be the leader of the home. You still have to provide. Even if your wife is earning more than you, mentally you have to know that I am the provider. 90% of a man is confidence. So even if you're earning less, you still have to be the man of the home. Now, if you do not develop as a man, small challenges, for example, your wife earning more than you, can break you down. Because then you lack that confidence as a man that it doesn't matter. It's not the money that is in my pocket. It's a fact that I am the man because even biblically, the man is the head, and I don't think the man will ever be demoted to be the neck, regardless, whatever happens. Okay, you'll always be the head. And in any home, the children will always look at the man as the leader of that home. So I don't think there is, like I said, there is any shame of being a man. And there is no problem in being, having those feelings you're talking about, letting boys know that they are also vulnerable.
Yeah.
But you're still a man.
But let me ask you this question.
Yes.
Let's talk about, since we said we want to talk a little home truths here.
Yes.
Do you really think that many young men growing up actually believe that the father figure is the head of the family? Do you honestly think that in many homesteads
Nowadays,
they actually think that the man, physical man, male, which can see, is the head of the family? I say this because there are many instances where there are women who are heads of family. There's clear. There's no ifs and buts and clear. But the man is there. It's not that he's not there.
Yeah.
so what's the position of the man in that family? What are children brought up to think of their father?
I think, what do they see and how is it communicated to them?
Okay.
Because we have a situation in this country where there are many instances where it is the women who are actually the breadwinners. Many instances. Okay?
Yes.
How they handle it and what the children know is a completely different matter. Now, if the role of the father was one of a protector, one of a provider, if they couldn't provide monetarily, they were able to provide emotionally, they were able to provide socially, they were still providing. And there's a balance. You will find there is no issue as to who has more money. But the problems you mentioned that arise when you talk to people anecdotally, a lot of the problems arise from this subject of money. Who has more and how it is being utilized and what they feel because of that money their position now is in the family. So there's this tiff about who should actually be boss. Whereas parenting is actually a co-activity that the two should be involved in, and the issue of leadership is something that is understood and agreed upon and communicated. You see, there is the traditional form of leadership where the man more or less barks orders and says everything and everybody follows. Then with the passage of time, there is something called consensus that has come into these discussions. One may not like it, it's a simple truth. Because in communities and in places where they have insisted on that so-called tradition, which is actually a misrepresentation of that tradition, if you ask me, you've had a situation where suddenly the rifts become greater because of this misunderstanding that because someone is earning more and someone has financial might, one, they're automatically the head of that family, and B, they're the person who should be listened to. So the implication here is that when you have more wealth, you have a better opinion. Now, just the discordance I've described now guarantees that that family setup is going to be in shambles.
Correct.
And all the variables which are being used to describe it are actually not germane to the actually family unit. Not really.
Even as we talk about this, and we're looking at the season where we are in currently with circumcision, a lot of young boys, and it's not just the physiological act of cutting, but we're talking about going into a season whereby a lot of these attributes are being taught. One would assume. Do these things still take place today during the circumcision ritual where young boys go through the cut? Are some of these things that we're talking about, the cultivation of going from man or from boy to man? We seem to place a lot of emphasis on the money aspect. And for me, I think it is a lot deeper than that, that then makes a boy into a man. Are some of these attributes really looked at when we are looking at the circumcision ritual beyond just the physical cut?
I really like what City has just explained, because it is about misconception between maybe economic or financial power that you're holding in the family and the original plan of God, if I may call it. The original plan of God is that the man is a head. Now, it didn't say that the man has to have money for him to be the head. It didn't say he has to have a lot of wealth. It just said he's a head. And in fact, if you go more deeper in the Bible, he is a priest. He's actually the priest of the home, right? So what has happened is that I think money has come and confused the setup and created new power structure, which I think is the issue. Now, going back to...
By the way, if I may just chime in, the same Bible talks about the man being the head, also states that the woman is a crown on the man's head. So you need when you mention one, you must also mention the other. Now, please proceed.
Good.
Yes.
So now let me go back to Ndu's point. What I think is happening, and this is why, if you come to our school, you hear us talking about this a lot. What I think is happening is that we are doing a lot of things at the tail end during the circumcision ceremonies. There's a lot happening that 2 weeks, I can tell you. There's a lot of mentorship happening, a lot of, trying to make these boys know that they're boys. They're going to be men. Even telling them that they should be protecting their sisters, right? Some churches are doing these ceremonies and they bring girls as well for rite of passage for girls, more or less counseling and mentorship. And they actually tell the new men that, you're supposed to protect your sisters. But I think the problem is that you're trying to fix a boy who has had challenges for the last, 12 years, 13 years? In 2 weeks. That's not possible.
You're bringing in new message that they've never heard. In the last 12 years.
Yeah, exactly. So mentorship is supposed to be a lifelong process, literally. It's supposed to be mentored all through. And that's one of the things that we are trying to address in school, where we are saying, don't mentor once. This is like motivational speaking. When you mentor for 2 weeks, that's motivational speaking. Somebody leaves that place thinking, I'm going to change the world. But 2 weeks later, they've forgotten what you told them, right? So I think the challenge is, how do we arrest the problems, but in a more sustainable way, understanding that this boy, as soon as he was maybe 4 years or 5, he started seeing issues, he started seeing challenges, and he's progressively becoming a bit depressed. He doesn't know what to do. And eventually, when you now bring him for that mentorship program stroke circumcision on year 13, you just fix him for 2 weeks. By the time he gets to high school next year, he's forgotten 90% of what was said.
Julius, so you've seen that debate, and it's everywhere in our society nowadays. When we talk about bringing up boys into men, there's always that issue of, so what is it that you're telling men to be? Are you entrenching patriarchy? Are you still saying that we continue doing the things that you're saying? And City was talking about this earlier. In the old traditional societies that we had, and where the man was then being told, okay, so you shall be man, and there'll be rites of passage for men, and there'll be rites of passage for boys, and how boys were being brought up. How are boys then being brought up to become men? What was it that the society was doing to make a boy feel and know that this is, you are a boy, and this will be your responsibilities, this will be the limits to your responsibilities?
Good question. So I think, first of all, leadership is passed on. So, you talk about leadership baton. So the way they were doing it before, if I talk in my community, for example, is that the boys, of course, boys spend a lot of time with their fathers, a lot of time. Because the fathers were always somewhere in the neighborhood. We are talking about before urbanization came, people moved to the urban center. So in the village, in the community, the parenting was community, right? So the boys were being brought up by the community, and the father was a central figure in the development of boys. But there was something that used to happen. These boys were always prepared to take the leadership baton from the men who are aging. So in my community, there's something called Rika. It's like this is your age set. So you have to take over. So you grow as a boy, knowing that your time will come when you will take over the leadership of the community. And like City says, the role of the man was mainly to be the protector, the provider, the leader. In the Maasai community where we built our school, they have a very elaborate program of getting boys from boys to Morans. And what is a Moran? A Moran is a protector of the community. That's what they are known. The warrior of the community. Is a conqueror of the community. So when the Maasai are transitioning their boys, they do a ceremony that is called boys to Are men, and they call it Il Merishaw, which means conquerors. So that you are now heading to be the protector and the warrior of the community. So I think that's where the gap started coming, because that elaborate plan of the boy spending a lot of time with the men, both his father and other men in the community, the boy being prepared to take over leadership of the community, not just a family, but of the community, kind of started eroding. So he now finds himself, he is a leader, right? Because that's what the society expects him to be, the leader, but he doesn't have the skills and the preparedness to be the leader. Right?
So there was somebody that the boy would look up to.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And the boy would look up to the father and the uncles.
And the uncles.
The girl would look up to the mother and the aunties.
Yes.
And it was clear even the responsibility for the aunties was how to bring up these children.
Yes.
And especially the girl child. There's some point where the girls will see to their auntie and they'll be told things that the mother has not told them.
Correct.
But it's expected the auntie will tell them.
Yes.
Same thing to the boys.
Yes.
On the responsibility and all.
Yes.
And you're saying now that because of our modern society,
yes,
that's not there.
That broke. So that broke. So that structure is no longer. It's difficult to maintain. Why? Because one is that the men, like I said, some are working very hard. They're not available at home. Others are absent by choice, not that they are working. They just decide to be absent, and therefore that transition became a challenge. Now, the reason why you are seeing that the girls are doing better is that I think the women generally still maintain a very strong hold on the children. So the imparting of skills from the woman to the girl, or the mother to the girl, is still fairly okay and fairly strong.
So what happens so that structure then is waning or depleting from father to son, from man to boy?
Yes.
What has happened? If you see on one spectrum it's getting stronger,
yes,
and the other it's getting weaker,
yeah,
what's the problem? Because again, and I keep going back to this circumcision thing, because it's the season that we're in, and we're saying that there's a breakdown in structure,
yes,
socially,
yes,
from men to boys.
yes.
So what has happened?
Okay, so I think one is that, like I said, we are coming together at when the boy is 13, 12. That I think that's where you see a lot of people coming together. But I think
absentee fathers and uncles.
Yeah, exactly. They're coming together at 12, 13. But if you look back when the boy was 5, 6, 7, 8, like going
why are these men absent?
Well, now that's a hard question, City.
But we have to ask it.
The hard question is, so first of all, I think there are those that are absent by choice, like I said, because they just don't want to be there. But I think they are also not absent by choice. I think they are also a victim of the problem that has been growing. So you are now finding this generation is suffering from what was not done in the other generation.
Previous generation.
So you now have a man who is 35, who also has a challenge on how he grew up, and he is now a father of 2. I'm not sure that he will be very present if...
He doesn't know to be present.
He doesn't know to be present is important.
Let me ask this question.
Yes.
We have a situation here where we're talking about men, we're talking about leadership.
Yes.
Are we also teaching the responsibility that goes with this leadership? And you see, if you take the anecdotal conversation about the so-called traditional society, these things were never in a vacuum. The women and the girls were in this same community.
Yes.
So when one was talking about leadership and the functions therein, the functions and the relationship that the men had with the women was also part of this conversation.
Yes.
You see, division of labor, what we call roles, were should we say, clear. So everyone had responsibilities. See, the leadership was a factor of certain variables. You're not just a leader because you're a man. No. It came with responsibilities. What you're describing, that absenteeism, is an absence of that responsibility.
Yes.
Or a complete erosion of that responsibility.
Yeah, so I think the way I would perceive it myself is that when things changed, including, urbanization and everything changed, nobody thought that since the community structures are breaking or they are eroding, how do we bring them to, for example, in the urban centers? For example, how do we bring that community, working together as a community to take care of these boys and girls together, right? How do we bring the responsibility and leadership together for these boys, even in our modern life? So now you have a situation where this boy is growing up in an enclosed household, an enclosed home. He doesn't have any interaction with the uncles. He doesn't have any interaction with other men. Then the father will get home, let's say at 10, very tired, and then he will exit the following day at 5, rushing to go and build the economy. So this boy doesn't have that part. So the erosion is natural, because when the figures that have to do mentorship are missing, then you see progressive erosion. So that absence has caused progressive erosion. So now you have a situation where you have the current fathers, ourselves, and they also have challenges on that they didn't pick some of the values that they need to impart on these boys. So then the erosion continues.
Let me ask you this question.
Yes.
Even in that so-called traditional society,
Yes.
do you really think that the people who imparted these so-called traditional norms were the men, or was it the mothers?
It was the mother.
It was the men. It was the men, because the mothers always used to invoke the name of the father somewhere. It was,
So who
your mother,
actually, yes.
your mother will beat you and tell you, wait until your father comes. Then you're like,
So
okay.
who was imparting that training, even in that so-called?
I think the women were playing a big role.
They still do.
I could put it in a way
Yes.
that the custodian
Yes.
of the norm
Yes.
and the implementer of it.
Yes.
I think the implementer is the mother.
Yes.
She's the executioner.
Executioner. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But then we know that the custodian is
Is the
actually
man.
with the man.
Yeah.
But then the person who's actually running it and making the young children know that, this is your father.
Yes.
The women are spending a lot of time with the children even
Yes.
then,
Yes.
with both boys and girls.
Yes.
But it's very clear that there's somebody whom you're not seeing here who will
Yes.
come later in the evening,
Yes.
but
Yes.
that's your father.
That's your father.
And that's your uncle. This is your auntie. The women are doing that and making the boys know that at some point you are going to spend time with your father. At some point, you girls, you're going to spend time with me and your aunties. And at some point, all of you will have to go by the fireplace and listen to stories from the elders.
Yes.
Here being mostly the fathers.
Yes.
And at some point in these stories, the girls will step aside and the boys will be left. Something like that. But so the person that is running the program
Is a mother.
is the mother.
Yeah. It's like in an organization. You don't see the CEO every day,
Yeah.
but you know that the things that happen here is because the CEO has said it. So back in the days, the man was always invoked, always. But I think you answered that question earlier when you said when things changed, and especially around this economic power. I think sometimes people miss the point of that the old structure still worked, and it can even work now, in that even if the one who has economic power is the mother, then she has to still execute on behalf of...
But think back to even that so-called traditional society. Who actually had the economic power?
It is a man.
Forget the titular head. Who did the farming?
But whose farm?
Precisely.
Yeah.
Farm which he had paid for because he paid dowry.
Yes.
Who farmed it?
It is the mother.
No. In many African societies, it is the women who farmed. In others, they're the ones who even built the houses.
Yeah, that is true.
You see, what I'm trying to say here is that in some communities, yes, the man may have owned the land, but women were actually given land.
Yes.
So they actually had economic might. You see? There's a point I'm getting to here.
Yes.
I'm actually trying to say that nothing has actually really changed. This is what I'm trying to say here. I'm trying to say that what has changed is the perception. And the perception has been brought about by our imbuing these so-called Western norms about how we go about things. The people who entrenched and still do entrench societal norms are not men, it's women. That's really the point I am making. Because the period of a child's life when they're most susceptible to influence, they're with their mother, not with their father. It doesn't matter which society you're talking about. So the person who influences the most and whose influence stays is their mother.
But I take you back to the fact that it is a man who owns the assets of production. In fact, back in the days, I am told that the men used to marry based on, the number of wives dependent on
Your wealth.
On
your
your
wealth.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you are wealthier, you get more
marry.
wives
You're
because
allowed
you
to.
can take care of more children, right? So I think the role of the man as the leader and the mother as the executioner, as the one who executes the desires of the man will still remain. The man can be absent, but he is present.
I'm not demeaning the role of the man.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to say
Yes.
is that even that role of the man, the person who enhanced it was the woman.
As a woman.
Yes. The perception the children had of their father
Was
It's
fostered
the
by
mother.
their, was
Yes.
fostered hugely by their mother.
Yes.
The mother. Yeah.
And in that society, these norms were understood and known. So the deviation wasn't there. Now the change that came about was a perception change, if you ask me.
It's interesting as you say, it's because just this weekend I watched a video of a gentleman who he was with his lady friend, whatever. I think he actually was his wife, it was not his lady friend, and they went to eat at a certain place, and so it was time to pay, and he opened his wallet and he was shot a few notes, obviously to pay for the meal. So this woman distracted the waiter. Go do something else, and under the table she took some money out of her bag and she put it in the hand of this man under the table. Nobody knew, but the man paid the bill. So to everybody,
It's a man.
this is the man who did this. So just to go to that CT's point, where she fostered that notion for him to be seen as. But you're talking about something that has broken over time,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes, yes.
The only reason why you have interventions is because something normal has broken. The
broken,
thing that used to happen normally did not happen. And so these interventions that we talk about during the time of circumcision, where you have seclusion, when these boys, usually it's not just for healing physically, but it's a time where certain knowledge is imparted to them. So even at the time where a man was absent and was not able to raise his sons, this time then proved where you would be able to impart some of this knowledge. So now my question is, in today's world,
Yes.
what is happening in those times of seclusion, if it's happening at all? Because to me, that could be the intervention that brings back some kind of normalcy to this structure. And is that actually happening?
I want to believe that it is happening within that period. I think most of the organizations that are doing the circumcision ceremonies, they are trying their best to make sure that within that period, they are trying to take the boy from the boy to become a man. I think that is happening. But like I said earlier, I think the challenge is that this boy is already partly broken by the time he gets
gets
here.
to that point.
So by the time you're taking him for that seclusion, mentoring and everything, he's partly broken, meaning you need more than 2 weeks. You need more than 3 weeks.
Exactly.
You need a longer engagement with this boy to bring him back to normalcy. Because let's use your example for that very simple example of the lady who put the money
Under the table.
under the table. Now, the question is, in reality, is that happening? That all ladies, they will cover their men. You've had the women rep of Kiabu talking a lot, telling the ladies how to take care of their men, telling them that even if this man is not functioning, don't beat him. Don't torment him.
Don't expose him.
Don't kill him. Return him to the mother. You had that talk a lot about
Yep.
what's going. So
Yeah,
I think
Morada, yes.
I think the example is a perfect example of what should happen. Where if the man doesn't have the money, because tell you what, if I take Ndu for coffee right now down here, the waiter is not going to give her the bill for sure, and nobody told the waiter that I am
you're
the one
done
who was
paying.
supposed to pay, right? But the bill will not be passed to her; it will be passed to me. because that's what naturally is expected.
That's what society knows.
That's what is expected. Now, if that coverage doesn't happen, what do you think happens to this boy? So he leaves that hotel thinking like, I am very useless, like, what's wrong with me?
Jamaa analetangwa hapa ananunuliwa mandasi.
And when you talked about bullying, bullying is just is like an end product of a problem.
Yeah.
When you see a boy bullying another one, it's not that he's trying to cover his own insecurities. So it is those instances. A boy is told by a girl that when in Surabaya, he doesn't know that men are not supposed to look. Men are not supposed to look so.
Surabaya is a currency.
They're not supposed to look so fancy, and he will be depressed for 2 weeks.
It sounds to me,
Yeah.
from just listening to this, the 3 points,
Yes.
that actually is not just the boy child that's broken.
Yes.
That even the girl child is broken.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That even the girl child is being brought up in a way that they are not also being told that this is your responsibility, and also this is your brother, and the responsibility of your brother. The responsibility that comes from your father. This is it. This is what we are saying.
Yes.
So even the girl child now doesn't grow up knowing these things of, this is how I relate with the boy child.
With the boy child. Yes.
The boy child doesn't know this is how I relate to the girl, just from hearing and seeing things anecdotal. So they don't even know. So I've been told that I am supposed to be the head. I was not told
does
what
that
this
look like?
head means
Exactly.
and how the head behaves. The girl was told, sometimes the men are supposed to be head, but these men, look at these
which
boys.
are,
So there's a clash.
And there's
the very
confusion,
beginning.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Because
Total.
again,
Yeah.
go back to this boy who today is walking around happily, gets circumcised tonight. 3 days later, he told you you're now a man, and he'll be like,
Okay.
Right.
What has
okay,
changed?
all right. So now what happens? I mean,
In fact, he goes through another period of total confusion because he doesn't know how to behave.
Yeah.
I was joking the other day with someone that sometimes the boys, after they come from the circumcision, they don't know how to behave because while they were told many things, there are also very many things that they were not told.
Yeah.
So every situation he's faced in, he doesn't know how to behave.
He's conflicted.
Yeah,
He doesn't
he's
even know how to
conflicted.
relate with his own mother.
Exactly, yes.
He's like, I'm a man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a man. So,
Yes.
Should this mentoring process also not take into account this very matter that you've mentioned of communication? Because an understanding that the rites of passage is the beginning of a process, not the end of it.
exactly.
Because it appears that with rite of passage, the take-home message is, okay, it's done now.
Yeah.
And yet you've begun a really, really long journey. And when Eric talks about the role that women have and how it is they also learn and are socialized in modern times to be able to associate. You see, we live in a world where there are too many choices. There was once a minister in the Moi government called Sharif Nasir. And among the many things he lamented was that there was too much freedom in Kenya. He lamented. He said, this democracy, sometimes it can be a little too much. Now, the freedom of choices is a good thing. It's a God-given right, really. But when it is not nurtured to include responsibility and respect for others, then when material things come in, disrespect comes to the center of the conversation, and the material well-being becomes a persona in someone's life. So someone is now himself plus the things he has. So they're not themselves. And everybody else is judged either with the things they have or the lack of things that they have thereof. And that kills relationships. Whether it's familial, whether it's in a marital situation, it doesn't matter. It's the beginning of the death of that relationship.
I agree. So, I think, and you have brought a very important point, Eric, that even the girl is broken. It is only that we are seeing the girl progressing, but from a family point of view, the girl is a bit broken. Because if you take that the family is the beginning of everything, so the family is the foundation for future generation. All the future leaders are going to come from a family.
Yeah.
The reason why the role of the man and the responsibilities, like City keeps saying, responsibility. Yeah, the reason why the role and responsibilities of the man and the woman were like they were
Distinct.
gospel truth. Like, you don't play around with these things. It was that you must understand the role. So the reason why they were like that is to build strong families. So the idea is build strong families,
Yeah.
so that you can then build new generation from these strong families. And I think the family unit is the one that now started scattering when the roles were starting to conflict. So the economic power now becomes the new power.
The
You know,
definitive
it's
power.
The definitive power.
Julius, thank you for joining us today. Come again. This is a period when these conversations must happen.
Yeah, sure.
And I like that we are having them openly. Julius Wanyaga is a boy child mentor. He's a director at Merishaw School. He's been our guest to be talking about raising boys to men.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.